home address, and so they entered that into the database, and so then it comes to my house.
One usually they got to talk to Jackie. Nothing. It's something I did.
Oh, yeah.
Every two mortgage payments in December.
At least it was on the same weekend.
I didn't realize I had done that.
Extra Christmas card today.
Oh, yes,
Good
yes.
evening.
Talking to Lexi.
We're live.
Oh,
Welcome to the December 21st City Council meeting. I'm going to call this meeting to order. If you'll please stand and join me in saying the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Hewlin,
Here.
Parker,
present.
Kling,
Here.
Schroeder,
Present.
Southall, Marchant,
Present.
Mayor Pepper.
There he is.
Present. Thank
Hi.
you. There's Greg. Greta did say she would try to. She had a conflict, but she was hoping to jump in at some point to the meeting, so we will keep our fingers crossed that she is able to do that. All right, we're moving into our open forum, public comment. If there's anybody here that wants to talk about something that's not on the agenda, please come forward, fill out the form. You know the drill. Hearing none, seeing none, we're going to move on to consent agenda. Council.
Move to approve.
Sorry.
Hello. You want some action here? Yes, please.
Mayor, I need to pull item B, claims on the computer printout.
Okay, we'll pull that for right now.
Since you made a motion.
So can I will
Amend your
rescind that
motion?
motion.
You can just amend it.
Or I will amend it to,
Excluding,
Remove.
Thank you.
yes.
Yes, thank
Yep.
everything but claims.
You were quick.
Okay, so you're okay with that? Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry, just want to make sure. You get it right.
Yeah.
Any other conversation, questions on that? Okay. Jackie, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, let's zing back to claims on the computer printout for December 21st, 2020.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any questions, comments? Okay. Jackie, will you call the roll on that?
Councilmember Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Abstain.
Parker,
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. I don't know, I kept thinking somebody else was gonna say something. All right, moving on to number 6, council reports. First up, Bob Kling, Metro
Okay.
Advisory.
We met on Tuesday, December 9th. We had an update on the legislation after the election. Republicans made gains and holds under the holds of the trifecta of state government. Very few changes in leadership or committees. There's still uncertainty around about the state budget, and questions are raised concerning the status of the property tax backfill. Challenges to local control will probably still persist. The areas of opportunity include mental health funding and broadband deployment. 2021 is a redistricting year and will impact the legislative session during April. We also heard from the staff from Senator Grassley and Ernst and Representative Axney. And at that point, all were hopeful for a COVID bill. They had varying degrees of opinion. No one was very definite on anything, but now it looks like we have one. So not much has changed around the Metro as far as the COVID updates. And then a couple days later, I was contacted by the MAC Advisory Council. They're talking about the possibility of changing Highway 5 to an interstate designation, which basically would be paperwork mainly. There are a few questions, but I conveyed that it would be a big plus for Indianola. So that's pretty much it.
Curious, so they said that was something that the Metro Advisory is pushing?
Yes,
Okay.
that's something they're pushing.
Because I know that years back when I first got on council, that I know the then mayor of Carlisle, she was pushing really big for it because big thing for them to be on the
Yeah.
interstate.
Mhm.
And there was not, the federal government wasn't really interested at
No.
all. So I'm curious though, if Des Moines and the rest of the area communities are getting behind it, that it will help.
It sounds like it, but I don't know, I don't know where it's going other than they're really trying for it again.
So what does that do? I mean, obviously, it's a different classification and it helps the communities, but like, how does it change things for?
Well, I think the maintenance issues, I think it becomes a federal funding instead of state funding, I would imagine.
And then Charlie, then we can brag that we're closer to the interstate.
Closer to the
Yeah,
interstate.
yeah.
Well, we can for
Yeah.
economic development, that's a huge thing.
The big concern that somebody brought up where they're worried about farmers trying to get to the roads and the mid 45 minimum, and the people involved who were pushed this said from the talk they've had, that's really not gonna be a big concern, so.
Thank you, Bob,
You bet.
for representing us and attending. I was also a part of that meeting, so I appreciate that very much. All right, next one is resolution appointing the City of Denal representation to the Des Moines Metropolitan Planning Organization and Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Alliance, just so the folks at home know. There's several committees on this. The Policy Committee, I would be the primary person, Ryan Waller would be the alternate. On the technical, Charlie would be the primary and AP would be alternate, so that would be both of our staff folks. And then on the Central Iowa Regional Transportation Planning Alliance, Heather Hewlin would be our primary and Ryan Waller would be our alternative. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
All right,
Thank you for both of you for
Thank
serving
you.
on those. I appreciate that.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next one is consideration of the appointment of Kimberly Gilford to serve on the Indianola Fine Arts and Beautification Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Second?
Okay. Is that a roll call or is that a
No, you
resolution?
can do a motion, yeah, or a
Okay.
simple motion. Yeah.
That's what I thought. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Great. Welcome, Kim. We're glad to have you on the commission. And then we have another person. Consideration and appointment of Dan Anderson to serve on the Indianola Fine Arts and Beautification Commission for a term beginning immediately and ending July 1st, 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Wonderful. Great. Welcome, Dan. Glad to have you on the commission as well. Now, if my memory serves me right, we have 4 on that commission, and there's still room for a couple more. That's great.
Good.
Please, please, please take a look at our website, folks. There's always room for people to volunteer. We'd love to have you join us. Next one is the mayor's report. Just want to begin with, on behalf of the city council and city staff, our condolences to former Councilwoman Shirley Clark on the passing of her husband. We're thinking of you and your family at this time. We've also completed 4 ward meetings this month, and I want to say thank you to all the council members for their showing up to all of them and being great advocates for this. We did have several people join us, which was great. Great to have our citizens participate. Also, city staff, thank you too for being there and answering questions as well. Anybody that asked a question in those meetings, that information is on our city website, so please take a look at that. I also had the opportunity to attend the Mayor's Youth Council meeting. Boy, what fun is that? They're an impressive group of young people and really enjoyed my time with them. So thank you to all of those students that are serving in that capacity. And then as this year comes to a close, maybe we quietly celebrate and hopeful for a better new year. I just wanted to say thank you so much to our loyal and dedicated employees for all of their efforts and all of the work that they have done in this crazy year and their willingness to show creativity, flexibility, understanding, passion, commitment. We so appreciate everything you do. So thank you to all of our city staff. And then to our citizens, I just want to say, wish you all a very happy holiday season. This is a month full of holidays, so whichever ones you choose to celebrate or choose not to celebrate. And then wish you all the very best in 2021. Let's hope it's a much better year. Pandemic free would be preferred. All right, anything else that we need to mention? Otherwise, I'm moving on. Okay, we're going to consideration of the reappointment of Kerry Koontz to serve on the Parks and Recreation Committee for a term beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending July of 2021. What we're doing here is just realigning so that these appointments start at the beginning of our fiscal year. So that's why she's just being asked to serve for several months, but she's going to get more terms here in the next vote. Is there a motion?
I'll make motion.
Okay,
Second.
perfect. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion carries. Now, how about we reappoint Kerry Koontz for Park and Rec Commission from July 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2024. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, same sign. Perfect, motion carries. Welcome back, Kerry. Glad to have you. Thank you. We appreciate it. All right, consideration of the reappointment of Kate Walton in the same kind of capacity, Parks and Rec Commission, for a term beginning January 1st, 2021 and ending in July 1st of 2021. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And then we're looking to reappoint Kate to serve then for a full term on Parks and Rec Commission. That would be July 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2024.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thanks, Kate Walton. We appreciate your continuing service. All right, on to public consideration, old business. Resolution adopting the Trail Master Plan. Here comes Doug. Welcome, Doug.
Thanks for having me, Mayor and members of council. We just, as you remember, a few weeks ago, we talked about officially adopting, having City Council officially adopt the Trail Master Plan that was updated from 2008 back in 2019. You have all the information in your packet of the priorities of why it was chosen with public input, Parks and Recreation Commission input, to connect neighborhoods, to make the city more walkable, to provide recreation, and to make more regional connections. So you can see there's several priorities of all those sections that we're trying to do there. So if there's any other questions.
I was curious if we had very many areas on which there are houses, but we don't yet have easements where there, or do we have very many we have to get
There
yet?
will always be parts of that. There will definitely be part of that
Okay,
on some of the trail sections, of course. And one of the things is if we can get this trail plan in before developments come in, we
that's,
can get those as Charlie gets to do all his work and doing plats and everything else.
I just didn't know whether there's some that's already developed and everything, whether we have very many that we have to get yet.
There will be some, yes.
Yeah.
Remind me, Doug, on the Memorial Park to Wilder School to the Activity Center. So I know you're out to Wilder, but then how are you doing? Is they going to be on the street to the Activity Center, or will it actually be trail?
There would be, we would try to get things on off-street trail.
Okay. That'll be a really nice addition.
It's a great plan. Thank you for
Yeah.
leading that effort and working through that. We appreciate it. Other questions for Doug? Thank you, Doug.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
How
thank-
about a motion, council?
I move that we pass a resolution adopting the Trail Master Plan.
Second?
Okay. Jackie, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. On to new business. A couple things that are going to go together. So I think Charlie's coming to talk to us about the resolution authorizing the certification of liens to the Warren County Treasurer for purposes of assessing the cost of nuisance abatement against property.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, Charlie. So really quick, just wanted to pull this one. We typically have this on consent agenda. I think just kind of wanted to put it on the regular agenda. It kind of leads into the next item a little bit. But also just make sure that everybody is aware, we do property maintenance. nuisance enforcement all the time. You can see some of the prices on here. When the city has to go in and take care of them, you're typically looking at a minimum of $200 that we're spending in city funds to take care of those. Process then leads us out to, we bill it back to the property owner. The property owner has an opportunity to pay us back. Otherwise, then we assess it against the property tax bill. So I think just wanted to pull this one aside because again, it'll lead into the next conversation that we're having. But if there's any questions on these ones, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you for your work on that. Is there a motion, council?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Jackie, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, and then the next one is resolution, directing the city attorney to petition the court for title to 1009 East Salem Avenue.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay. Charlie, you want to?
Really quick on this one, you'll remember at the last meeting, we did amend the policy to allow the city to use this section of state code to acquire properties that we do have issues with. This one has been on our list for a little bit. It's on a list of possible ones that we're looking at to acquire, but in talking with the city attorney who helps us with property maintenance, this one was kind of the lower hanging fruit at this moment that was going to be kind of a good starting point for us to go after. But pictures are in the packet there. You can see them. Obviously, the building is in dilapidated condition, and we did determine that to be a dangerous building earlier this year, and we just have had no success in getting anything done on that one. And the city has spent quite a bit of money, even just this past year, on nuisance abatement on this property. So, any questions? I'd be happy to answer them.
Once if we were successful in what is the intent of the property?
Same thing with the former D&D policy that we've renamed now, and now the name's completely escaping me, but, and I apologize for that. But
And you named it, right?
yeah, I did, with the help.
I'm sure it was a good one.
I'm really glad that happens to you.
You're too young for that, man.
I know. Okay, train of thought. Let me get back here. Anyways, so same thing. We'd market it immediately with the real estate agent that we have contracted with on that and get it out there.
But we would not demolish, or would we demolish?
Not at first. I don't think that'd be our intention. We'd hope that we could sell it as is, but over time, if we are continuing to hold on to it and the condition of the building gets worse and worse, there might be a situation where we have to demolish it at that point. But fingers crossed, we can get them turned around pretty fast.
I think an important distinction to make between this new policy and the old policy is that we're not acquiring it, we're not purchasing it. Because when you purchase it, you had a number of dollars into it, and then you had the demo costs or cleanup costs. So here, all we have, I think the estimates were about $1,500 to $2,000 for the legal fees, and this one's already been determined to be abandoned. So
Makes sense, and it cleans up our community.
Yeah.
Thank you for leading this effort.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions, council, before we vote? Okay, thank you, Charlie. Jackie, please call the roll.
Councilmember Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Ryan's already headed to the podium. He's going to talk a little bit about City Hall, Library, Public Safety and Buildings Project.
yes, thank you, Mayor, members of council. It's just easier to speak up at the podium than sitting over there. So for the last 2 years, the city has been going through a project where we've assessed our facility needs. This was on the heels of our staffing study where we had to identify the proper staffing levels for police and fire, and then start looking at the building and does it meet our current and future needs. So over the last 2 years, we've had conversations with council, presenting reports from our consultant formation group. Last year, city staff was directed to pursue architectural services to evaluate a facility here for public safety, and then a joint library and city hall at the library site. So as part of the budget for this year, we had $75,000 included in that. So we issued a RFP at the end of October. We had great responses, 8 responses. That was narrowed down to 4 firms that were interviewed by a team of staff members, a couple library board members, a couple city council members, And the recommendation is to go with OPN Architects for architectural pre-design services. They are the firm that met all the criteria in the RFP, and their cost was significantly below budget. In addition to that, part of their RFP identified some pre-referendum or referendum support services. So as part of us discussing this recommendation coming to council, we asked them about pricing. And so in the resolution is authorization for an additional $12,000 if we get to that point, bringing the total cost of that contract to $39,500. So everybody on the committee recommended OPM.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Brian?
Just make a comment.
Please.
Sitting in on those interviews, very impressed actually with the quality of candidates that we had.
Agreed.
I do work with a lot of different architects in my professional life, and these were all top-notch groups, firms that were involved in this. So I'm extremely thrilled that obviously Indianola has a reputation to the outside world now that we're doing some things, and so we have great representation here. So really looking forward to working with OPN. I think this is definitely a huge need for the city, and as you look around to almost every community in the Des Moines metro area, they've either built new public safety or city halls, libraries in the last 5 years. I mean, every one of them, some of them, or most of them actually, just in the last 2 years, because I've done a lot of projects that's what's going on. So I think we're probably at least one cycle behind here in Indianola that should have been taken care of many years ago. So this is definitely a huge need for us. So looking forward to working with them.
I
I
also
just
like
want
that
to-
they, sorry,
Go
I
ahead.
say also like that they have the project experience of working on the Metro Opera
Yes.
here.
And the community schools. was the
Yes,
other thing that they've done.
exactly. So, yeah,
they're
a lot of
familiar with that.
experience here already.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
And I wanted to say, I am just so excited because it's such a good idea doing the combined space with the library and
Yeah.
city hall together. It just makes so much sense.
It does.
But one thing that was really stood out with OPN that was important to the selection committee was the public engagement component that they brought and the type of technology that they would use to help provide concepts, but also solicit feedback from the community. One of the things they exhibited during the interview process was an interactive polling, a polling system where you can gauge that feedback. So the committee talked about that, especially as we're still in a COVID world, and as this project continues forward, how is that still going to be impacted, and making sure that we're still engaging and we're getting that necessary feedback.
So true.
I was also thankful that the library board, that we had representation there.
Yeah.
They spoke up and were very integral part of that. So appreciate that they were involved in that.
Okay, any questions on that? And I'll take a motion for a resolution approving a professional services agreement with OPN Architects for architectural pre-design services.
Moved as written.
Second,
Okay, any comments? Jackie, please.
Councilmember Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And then the next step of that is a resolution authorizing a professional service agreement with Formation Group for $15,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
And then
Yeah.
formation group, so the first set of work that they did for the city with the building assessment, the needs assessment, and then kind of going through the different site alternatives is complete. So this is the next step of this building project. The cost that is before you was incorporated into that $75,000 that's budgeted. So this is now for Formation Group to continue as our owner's rep as we go through this process.
Any other questions before we vote? Okay, Jackie?
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Kling.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Ryan, for explaining that. On to other business. First one is city manager's report. Brian Waller.
I'm going to turn it over to Mr. DeSell.
All right.
Hello once again. First thing we want to talk to you, just a really quick discussion and then get some direction from council on the right-of-way around the public square. As part of the streetscape project, we've been working with Bolton and Mink. One of the tasks that we had them look at was the right-of-way out there, what the city needed to look at as far as possibly acquiring more right-of-way. If anybody's ever looked at Beacon online, the right-of-way lines that show the county property is actually kind of about halfway out in the parking on the county side of the square. However, the more research that Bolton and Mink did on this, they were only ever able to find one subdivision plat that was ever done. It was a subdivision plat that was done in 1849, then recorded in 1869. And I can't tell you why that was, so don't ask, but shows that octagon type shape in the square. So there wasn't really even too much of a scale on that old plat. It was the original town plat for the plan. They went back and did some stuff to it, and then you can see they did this plat retracement that shows where that currently is. So then they did one other figure where they showed they depicted on there where the current right-of-way is as they see it and what they would propose to be right-of-way on the square. And you can see there's just a very minor difference between those two numbers. The city would actually be acquiring about 120 more square feet of land through this process for right-of-way. So when you're talking 82,000 square feet in total, that's really minor, but just wanted to show that. So next step from here, if council does kind of agree and give us the direction to move forward, we're going to have to work with legal and Bolton and Mink surveying team to figure out exactly what process we have to do to first file what we think is the existing right-of-way, then work on the change, the quitclaim deeds, and all of that stuff that go along with it. So there's going to be some expense incurred with that. So we just want to make sure we're getting this right before we get into that process. So did also present this to the Board of Supervisors at their meeting last Tuesday. They agreed to this concept. So just looking for council's direction at this point. And if everybody's in agreement, we'll move forward.
And they had no issue?
The county, no. Nope, they agree with it. Yep.
It's just one of those things like we've been finding just old things that need to be cleaned up, and this is definitely one of them. So, yep, sounds good.
I would agree. Looks good.
Perfect.
Is that what you needed? Good.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. How about a discussion and direction regarding a request for the Planning and Zoning Commission to review a possible zoning code text amendment?
I think everybody got a copy of the letter that was included that was mailed to the city from this particular property owner. This property is right at the it would be southeast corner of South R Street and Highway 92. Property owner and I had a little bit of discussion on a type of use that he wanted to put in there. At first was thinking of doing a possible rezoning. I suggested against that just because it would be kind of a case of spot zoning, putting an industrial zoning district in there. Suggested that if he was willing to go through a process, that a code amendment would be the best one to go through. So I think from staff standpoint, we're just asking that you forward this to the Planning and Zoning Commission, then staff will continue doing the research and work and take that to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a future recommendation for council.
I think that's the best way.
Yeah, I do too.
I do too.
We don't want to get into spot.
Okay, then let's send it to Planning and Zoning.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next one is discussion and direction regarding sewer rate billing by IMU. Ryan, I think you were going to talk about that?
Yeah, we come up to the podium, sorry. So back in, I believe it was September, the city staff learned that some of the new sewer rates were not applied properly to certain customers. As everybody knows, IMU performs the billing services for the city for our stormwater, sanitary sewer, and recycling customers. We reported that to the city council. At that point, the city council asked us to do some additional research. The total number is about $18,000 that was not applied and collected for the sewer utility. It's important to note that the sewer utility is not supported by property taxes, but rather entirely by user rates. When we brought it back to City Council asked us to verify those numbers. So with the help of Chris Desplanks, the general manager at IMU, Jackie and Andy on our staff went back and verified those numbers. And in looking at the different options, at the end of the day, staff is recommending that while the city has the ability to go and apply a back bill and back charge the customers, city staff recommendation is to just the rates have been corrected in the system. They have been being collected properly. Moving forward, city staff is recommending that that the no back bill be pursued.
Council, some discussion on this?
Mayor, I would like just to say that I'm not going to participate in the discussion on this, as the Y would be a customer that is impacted by this.
Thank you, Heather. Other council members, thoughts, ideas that we can pass on to the city staff?
And I should just say, we do have, this impacted a number of customers throughout the community, mostly business customers in our industrial park, different types of restaurants. And so the range varies. Some was a couple cents, and then we have a couple larger customers. It's about a couple $100. So
I would just like to say, I agree that we shouldn't back bill. I'm a little torn about who should eat the cost of it. I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Okay.
I would say that I spoke earlier about this, and I'm frustrated that, you know, if you had a private company in here that we're doing this with, they would either be paying us back or they'd be fired. And my understanding is that there were some issues going on in IMU, and they've got a lot. Sounds like they're improving and got a lot of that taken care of. You know, it still frustrates me when you ask somebody to take on something for you and you pay them for it, and then it doesn't get done. That really frustrates me. So I am not in favor of going back and billing the customers. That's not their fault. But like I said, I do have an issue with that. But like I said, if it's getting worked out, then I guess it is what it is. Because, you know, if we back bill, we're just going to play the game. They'll back bill us on third. You know, it's just going to go back and forth. So that makes the most sense to do this.
Take the high road and move on.
Yes.
And I'll just add on to that. Mayor Pepper has been very instrumental in facilitating some meetings between the two organizations. And I think we've had a number of meetings and they've been very productive, and we've identified things that need to improve, and we're working towards those resolutions. So it's been really refreshing and very positive. So
And that would be why I'm tempering.
Right, and I really do appreciate that. Work needed to be done, but I appreciate the way it's being handled, and I think we're gonna get to a good start, and I appreciate the way it's done, so.
Yeah, this is a good way to move forward.
Council, I appreciate that support and that collaboration. So thank you. Ryan, you got what you need?
yes, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, on to receive and file correspondence from December 4 and 11, 2020, weekly updates from the city manager, Ryan Waller.
I move that we receive and file correspondence from December 4th and 11th, 2020 for the weekly updates from City Manager Ryan Waller.
Second?
Okay. Jackie, we call the roll on that, don't we?
Councilmember Kling,
Aye.
Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Motion carries. The next two items are both moving into closed session. So I will read both of them, but I would just want to give some explanation to the public. We have two closed sessions. We need to go in and out of each closed session. So we will be doing that. The first one is to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51IJ. Sorry. To discuss the purchase of a sale of particular real estate only where premature disclosure could be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property or reduce the price the governmental body would receive for that property. So that's the first one. And then the second one would be to enter into closed session in accordance with Iowa Code Section 21.51C to discuss strategy with legal counsel in matters that are presently in litigation or where litigation is imminent and where its disclosure would likely to prejudice or disadvantage the government. So we'd like to move into that. So, and then following that, we would adjourn. We would probably take a 5-minute recess, and then we would move into our council study. So we'd ask, so we will shut down the Zoom. We would come back. So if you are out there watching us, please just hang on while we do this. We don't anticipate these two closed sessions taking too much time. So with that, I need a motion to go into closed session.
I move we go into closed session.
Second.
Okay. Roll call.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Aye.
Marchant,
Aye.
Hewlin,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Clayton.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Report to Joy. welcome everybody to the December 21st council study session. We have a couple things on our agenda tonight. First thing, we're going to bring up AP. He's going to present regarding the proposed statewide urban design specifications called SUDA and an update on the pavement indexing project. Hi AP, thanks for being here.
Thank you. Get this going.
No Greta yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay, want to make sure. But Greg's back.
I got it. Oh, thank you. Sorry.
It takes a little bit to warm up.
Sorry, we should have had that on for you. Oh, wonderful.
There you go. It's coming.
I know it is. We do know light helps a little bit.
Yeah.
Just that.
Andy, what happened last, oh, never mind.
There it is. All right, we're ready for you.
Okay. Mayor and Council, thank you very much for this opportunity. This is AP, Public Works Director. Today I will be doing two presentations. One is on the SUDAS and the second one is on the pavement management plan. The first part of the presentation is on SUDAS. So a couple of topics that I'll be covering is what is SUDAS? Why are we changing? Why are we recommending a change to adopt SUDAS? What are the benefits of SUDAS? And then what SUDAS documents are we adopting? So SUDAS is basically, SUDAS stands for Statewide Urban Design and Specifications. So these are set of standards created by a bunch of local jurisdictions, Iowa State University, Iowa DOT, and a bunch of consultant engineers too. So basically these are standards and specifications for design and construction of public improvements in the state of Iowa. So a lot of thought has been put together to create these standards. Just to reiterate, many of our communities, nearby communities, have already adopted the SUDAS. So where we are standing currently, we do not have any standards for public improvements. As a result, what are we seeing? We are seeing frequent maintenance problems on our public improvement that's happening. Just to name a few, I mean, there's public improvements, roads, frequent failures in roads because of lack of a consistent standard. Now, these failures may be because of improper soil compaction, or it could be because of lack of subbase, any of those factors. So these are some of the things that we are planning to do, is bring up some consistent standards. Now, because of these inconsistent standards, it's also sending a wrong message to our contractors and developers, because one contractor may have a different set of standards compared to another set of contractors in another subdivision. So some of the benefits are, again, what we want to do is we are recommending a consistent set of standards for all public improvements. Now, in doing so, we are going to bring uniformity in construction materials and techniques. Now, having consistent standards is also going to help with the developers and contractors. So as I've told you, many of our neighboring communities and has already adopted this. So if we as a city of Indianola are going to adopt this, we are not just going to help the developers and contractors save time and money, we're also going to encourage more bidders to come to the city of Indianola. So one more thing to keep in mind is also, it helps city staff to save a lot of time in staying up to date with the current technology, because SUDAS is already doing this for us. So overall, we are going to improve our economic development and customer service. So what documents are we adopting? Are we recommending to adopt? It's the most current edition of the SUDAS, which is the 2020 edition. So SUDAS is a large volume of set of standards and specifications for all construction improvements, including sewer or water, streets. So what we did is basically we created a general supplemental specifications. What that supplemental specification is basically a set of standards for the city of Indianola. So we are adding or removing things which is not required. We are making it that fits to our best needs. You know, for instance, the water pollution control may require a set of manholes or set of type of sewer pipe that fits our needs the best. So we can go and basically go and do preventive maintenance on that because we have more knowledge on that. You know, so same thing with water. They may have specific set of fittings or set of pipes. For the streets, it could be sub-base requirements, geotechnical requirements, the type of ram, the thickness of the pavement, stuff like that. So we are adding set of things that fits the best for our needs. So that's why we have the supplemental specifications. So just to note that we have also included the IMU standards for water main utilities as a part of this too. So we are all inclusive for all our city departments.
I was going to ask that question. So good, thank you.
So the next few slides, I'm basically showing you a snapshot of what the table of contents and some images. But basically, this is a snapshot of the table of contents for the Iowa SUDAS and the draft that we have prepared for the supplemental specifications. Now, these are also a set of figures that I wanted to give you as an example for construction figures that's in SUDAS and how it relates to real life. You know, the first figure is about the trench backfill. The second one is also a sewer stub that goes to a residential house. The manholes, whether it's a storm sewer or a sanitary sewer manhole, intersection ramps, they have already created these figures that relate to this. So we are using these standards that SUDAS has already created. Now this is probably one of my last slides. The curb and gutter, the top figure is about erosion control on construction. Sorry. So before I go to my next part of the presentation, I wanted to basically open up for discussion about what we ultimately need is direction from the council on whether we should follow the path to adopt the SUDAS. If so, we want to know whether we have your support on that or not. So,
I have a question.
If I can just add, I'm sorry, just really quick. I really appreciated AP's presentation. I thought it was very well done. Just like an example, something he touched on is customer service or responsiveness, right? So if you can go back to the manhole, just as an example, our water pollution control department has a certain manhole that they are comfortable using. And so if there's a failure and we need to do something, if having the uniformity throughout, I mean, aside from giving the developers some clarity, it's consistent. It's the Indianola, you know, what is the Indianola way? What are the specs and things that our team's used to working on? And so if we have these uniform specs, well, now there's a certain amount of stock we can have in place. We can respond quicker to certain events. But again, it's conveying out what are the standards that we are looking for in any of the subdivisions. So if we have a piece of equipment that needs to maintain some infrastructure, we know that it's uniform. We know that the equipment's going to work everywhere else. So there's all sorts of different examples of why you'd want to have this. AP touched on a good number of them, but this is certainly something that we as a community are behind the 8 ball on because we don't have these standards. Now, we've been following some of them sometimes, is my understanding as I got here, but this really helps us. And when we work with developers, well, when they say, why does it have to be done this way? Well, because this is a requirement by city code. So,
well, I'm excited to have the Indianola way because the past the Indianola way was not to have a way. So, but I'm curious. I'm guessing we're gonna adopt the 2020 standards, then down the road, I don't know what year, how often before you adopt a whole new set of, I realize there's probably not gonna be that much change.
Right.
But,
So it's same as, I know Charlie and I were discussing about the same thing. It's the same as your building codes, you can keep adopting it as long as we are making amendments to it and whatever changes we're doing. So every year SUDAS comes up with this. We can bring this to you after looking at it and then reviewing what our needs are, what our changes are required in that specification, etc.
I would just like to say, I think it sounds like it's long overdue, and I think it will really help elevate us. I think it's a really good direction for us to take.
I agree, yeah.
Just out of curiosity, you say most communities around us already have, how long have other communities already been doing this?
So
How behind are we? Just
Yeah.
curious.
So I think
behind.
SUDAS has been there at least for 10, 15 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And bigger cities like City of Des Moines, Cedar Rapids have already adopted it for a long
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Smaller cities are going into that, slowly
Okay.
getting to that. So I think
Okay.
we are not too far away. I think we are at the right time. So
Perfect. Yeah.
it will be a good change.
See great value in it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, we did
Makes
a very good
sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention and
Thank you.
asking for our thoughts, but I think you got the support of council.
Yay.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
all you're
you.
doing.
Yep. So my next part of the presentation is on the pavement management plan. Some of the topics that I'm going to talk about is the background, our streets master plan that's been completed, and then finally talk about concrete and asphalt overlay. So as a background, back in 2017, the city, kudos to the city that they have started doing a streets master plan. As part of that, eventually Snyder and Associates, Dave Moeller from Snyder and Associates gave a presentation on what our condition assessment and gave the recommendations, finished the condition assessment of all our streets in Indianola. So this is just a part of what's been completed. As a part of that, you finished the pavement condition indexing for all our streets. We have already developed a 5-year capital improvement plan for all the streets based on our current budget. We have generated that based on the pavement condition index that's been created. So just to give basically a recap of what's been done, is basically all our streets have been given a condition index of 100 to 0, 100 being in good, 0 being in failed condition. You can see some pictures of what's failed condition to what's in good state. 100 to 80 is an excellent to very good condition. So all the roads were rated in Indianola, and based on that rating, this is our streets in Indianola. So the good thing is our average pavement condition index is rated 70, which is close to being in very good condition. Now you can see there are still a few roads which is in blue and brown, which is failed or poor condition, but majority of our roads are still in good condition. So how do we rate ourselves with other cities, nearby cities? We have compared, so Des Moines MPO has recently released this pavement condition index for various cities in Iowa. As a part of that, you can see this is Indianola, and these bars, what you're seeing is basically the blue bars are the average pavement condition index for various cities, and the average MPO average for all the cities in Iowa is rated at about 68. So where do we stand? We are at 70. I think we are doing good. So we're not much different from our neighboring communities, our communities our size, so we are right about there, so in terms of the functional classification, you can see the green one is minor arterials, yellow being the major collectors, and the red ones being the residential. We are doing good overall over here, so we are right about there when compared. It's not much different from our neighbors. So in terms of the total miles of roadway, you can see this is Indianola again. How are we comparing with our neighbors? We are still doing overall, we have 53% of our roads being in good shape, in excellent condition, being green being in excellent conditions. Now there's about 1% of roadway compared to, if you see on an average, there are many cities, there's a few zeros, that's surprising, but But there's 2%, the average, MPO average is about 1%. So we are not any different than many other cities around us. So now the next topic I briefly want to talk about is concrete reconstruction. So what is concrete reconstruction? Based on the pavement condition index, when it fails, basically when it's failed or poor condition, is basically you select the pavement concrete reconstruction, where you have no other means to do, whether it's overlay or full depth patching. There's no other means. So basically, when it fails, you're looking at doing a concrete reconstruction. Now, this is the most expensive option for repair or pavement maintenance. It's basically the concrete reconstruction. It comes at roughly about $95,000 to $100,000 a block. Now, the good thing is this has the most life. It's about 20 to 30 years, but it's also the most expensive option. Whereas in terms of asphalt overlay, so what is asphalt overlay? It's basically grinding the top layer of your pavement and putting roughly about, in urban settings, you're putting about 3 inches of asphalt on the top surface, basically asphalt bituminous pavement. Now, how do you do this? Basically, you're using a grinder to grind on the top surface and then putting about 3 inches of asphalt overlay on top of it. So where we are standing in terms of cost, this is the second most expensive option. It's still about $30,000 a block compared to $100,000 a block. And a block is roughly about 330 feet, 300 to 350 feet. Now, the design life on these is about 10 to 15 years, about 1/3 to half of what's concrete, but it's still about $30,000 a block. Now, where do you select this? It needs to be fair to poor condition. It cannot be failed condition, because if you're putting an asphalt overlay on a failed condition, you're having reflective cracks on the top layer, so it's not going to last long. It has to be in good condition to put this.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Can you do the overlay? Do you do it just once? And in other words,
Yes.
15 years from now, you got to start all over again, or do you do it a second time?
So we have done, so I come from a different community where they have constantly done this, as long as you can do it. Now, if it fails completely, you cannot do that. It has to be, the base has to be in good shape to do it. So for instance, Highway 92, Highway 63, the base is in good shape. The DOT came and did all the asphalt overlays for about 1/3 the cost of reconstruction. But there's many factors you take into consideration before you decide whether it's asphalt overlay or reconstruction is the best option for you. The various factors that you have to think about is basically the biggest factor is again the traffic, the type of roadway that you're getting. Now, when the DOT came and did an overlay, they have done about 5 or 6 inches of overlay. Compared to our urban settings, our urban can do 3 inches of overlay. One more big factor is the budget. What's your budget availability for the city? The condition, like I said, if it's failed, you have to reconstruct the pavement. Now, if it's fairly in good shape, then you can do an asphalt overlay. Now, once again, a recap of your design life, 10 to 15 years compared to 20 to 30 years on reconstruction. This is the big thing that we look at is basically the cost. $30,000 versus $100,000 for cost of reconstructing it.
About how long, I know it's different everywhere, but how long would it go from fair poor to fail if you didn't put the overlay over it? In other words, I mean, I guess what I'm asking is how much are we extending it by doing the overlay over just waiting?
So basically what most of the civil engineers say is that once it starts failing, it has a steep failure. Okay. You don't get much life once it's the curve. So this is the next slide is where I was going to show you on a pavement life cycle cost analysis in terms of the pavement condition and the time. How is the life of the pavement doing? Once it starts failing, it won't take long for you to fall from fair to poor. It has a steep drop. So you'd better do. So now again, basically, there's 3 options that you can constantly do. If it's in good shape, you're looking at preventive maintenance, or asphalt overlay, which is a rehabilitation. You can see the cost of that is primarily the preventive maintenance is the cheapest option. The asphalt overlays, which is the rehabilitation, is the next. It's not cheap, but it's not as expensive as concrete reconstruction. Now you can keep on doing the preventive maintenance till it's in good condition, but once it's with age, if it fails or started becoming fair, you can constantly keep on doing the overlay till it reaches a point where it comes to this poor stage. Where poor or failed, that's when you think about reconstructing. So again, a snapshot of this is basically saying whether you want to invest towards maintaining the good roads by doing preventive maintenance or rehabilitation, or you pay more for construction over time. So.
AP, if I can jump in really quick, our team does a really good job of the preventive maintenance. They're on a schedule. They go around. They do the crack filling. So they're doing a lot of that preventive maintenance in order to keep that infrastructure long lasting. The crack sealing is important because you want to keep the water out from going underneath, freezing, thawing, and then shifting everything. The SUDAS is going to help. I think within the last year or two, when we do replacements or if there's a water main break, doing the full panel replacements, those are examples of things to do to maintain the life of that and maintain the integrity of that infrastructure.
How many blocks of streets do we have that are in the failed?
So going back, again, if you remember, there was about 1% of the roadways.
Right.
So we have about, 63 miles. So 1% is about 6 to 7 miles of roadway, roughly, which is in poor condition or failed. So.
AP, what would that equate to in dollars?
So.
Do you have that math?
I don't, but I think it's a block 330 feet is roughly about $100,000. So 6 miles, a mile is 5,200, 30,000, roughly about 33,000 feet. So we're talking about 33 million if I have to quickly eyeball, without doing it.
Yeah.
So that's what you're looking at, so to replace all the poor or failed roads.
So AP, are you asking the council to consider overlay, and that if we say, yes, we'll consider overlay, that you'll then come back and say, here's our streets, these 25 we're leaving alone, they're perfect, we're nothing to do with them. Here's the 4 that are horrible, we have to redo those. And here's my plan for these other roads and what we think we can do, or what's the best idea for these plans,
Yes.
for these roads.
Absolutely. Before I get to your question, I wanted to show you the next slide where I was going with this.
Sorry.
So one of our 5-year capital improvement plan has already got our street in there, which is still in fair condition. Now, one of the things that we have already got in our 5-year plan is for asphalt overlay. There's still a few more minor road projects too, which has also got asphalt overlay in there. But that's where we are estimating. If you do an asphalt overlay, it's going to cost $700,000. But if you're doing a total reconstruction of the same location, it's going to cost us about $2 million. So yes, finally, where I was getting at this is we will need, as a staff, council direction on whether you support asphalt overlay or whether we can.
And it's not really, you don't have to make a decision today, but what we're looking for is, we've got this data, right? We know the conditions of the roads, which is why that's so important. We also know that the roads, we should be spending about 1.5 million annually. And historically, we've been funding at 600,000. So we've got this big gap. And we've got the responsibility, when you look at the community survey that was done as part of the public, the comp plan, number one was roads. And so this is a vital infrastructure that we've got to maintain. And so we need some clarity as we're going through and compiling, because if you said just reconstruction, that's it, we're not interested in the asphalt overlay. Well, what we can accomplish is going to be a lot less than if we
Take
had.
us a lot longer.
Yeah. I mean, there's trade-offs.
Yeah.
Well, and in the meantime, the roads that need to be done continue continue to deteriorate.
Right.
Yep.
Just specifically, I know our street is just an example, but it's ranked fair, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then when would you do that? I mean, is that, we don't have that plan yet? or-
So currently, our 5-year plan, the way we have given this is basically fiscal year 24. So we are at fiscal year 21, 3 or 4 more years is where our current proposal is for fiscal year 24.
And I would say traveling on that street regularly,
Right.
I mean, I'm not a professional, but
Sure.
I would even question the fare because it's very bumpy, very rough. I would encourage everybody to drive down there. So,
Part in ones.
yeah, part it ones, that's right. That's exactly right.
But, and then you'll look at that we don't have over, the ones that have been rebuilt, coming due to be rebuilt while we have overlay. So you're kind of gonna work on spacing all this out so we can get the biggest bang for our buck
Correct. Correct.
in the greatest amount of time.
Sure.
And we can push this road maybe 1 more year, but this one we cannot.
Yes.
Well,
No,
that's what
these-
I'm wondering, because that, if that one's ranked 4, like you said, it's a steep decline,
Right.
or ranked fair, it's a steep decline. I would think some of these would decline more quickly than what we can get to.
Yeah, and so what we would do is if we got the direction, if you said, look, we're not interested in asphalt overlay at all, then we got it helps us put together and take the data that we have on the condition of the roads and now plot out that multi-year CIP and kind of continue to develop that. If you said, we're interested in asphalt, well, that's going to look a lot different because now we can probably accomplish a little bit more and we can space it out. And as we talked about when Dave Muller presented this back in July, that's part of that's the first part of a long conversation. I mean, this is something that we wanted to have this follow-up so we can get this input, so we can start really crafting the CIP. We presented the CIP for this FY22 budget, but we're already working on subsequent budgets now for the CIP. And so the input from you all is vital to us kind of spacing it out and coming back and saying, see, these would be good candidates for this, these would be good candidates for reconstruction.
Well, now that we're not assessing homeowners, because it used to be they were assessed for repavement. And the process we have with the, what's it called? The
Natural gas franchise fee.
Yeah, natural gas franchise, which is great, but unfortunately it doesn't generate enough. And
yeah, and that's, I mean, what we're doing is the work that Snyder did for the city, as AP said in this presentation, was very valuable. It's a multi-year study in order to get this data. So once we have this data and we can start planning out these roads based on data, let the data drive those decisions.
Yeah.
Now we can look at the funding that we have and say, okay, we know this is how much funding's coming in. Now the gas franchises fluctuates with the weather, but Andy's been pretty good at estimating what we're budgeting for revenue. So if we have the revenue, we can now line it up and say, okay, we know we got this and we can lock these in. And then we've got to come up with, maybe you come up with a package and you look at those alternative funding, but it also helps us go out and compete for grants better by having have it programmed out, knowing what we have coming in for funding and what we need more of. So
I think
Quickly, I've got a couple things. One, I think we increased our natural gas franchise fee, didn't we, to 5%? Or we were going to do that?
yes.
And secondarily, I think this is a heck of an option from an input standpoint, that it gives us another alternative or another option to deal with these roads. So I'm very much in favor of this process.
Yeah, I think it behooves us to definitely look at this. My only concern would be that we don't lose the aggressiveness we have on the really bad streets getting them rebuilt. That's my only thing, and I don't think that that's what you guys would do. I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of the fact that we're not just going to overlay everything. We still need to replace the ones that we need to replace.
Right, and I would phrase this way. This is an alternative that is widely accepted across the country. In order to prevent roads from getting to the point where they're failing. So this is kind of extending the life of that investment and catching it at the right time.
Yep, no, I agree.
So
It-
I was-
Go ahead.
Sorry, so I have a question. So you asked earlier, how many are before, how many are fair to, I mean, like, how many roads would this affect? I mean, I don't think we have any choice. I think it's a good option. And I think that's the best way to, again, elevate our community in yet one more way. But I'm just wondering how many and like how fast we can get them finished so that it's fine.
So you're saying fair and poor is orange and yellow, so we are talking about roughly about 21% of 63 miles, which is, sorry, 12 miles, I'm taking a guess here, so it's roughly which can be eligible for the, so.
I would say we have to do it.
And what we can do is if no decision, I mean, this is a workshop. This allows us to go in and start putting some better information around this program. We can come back and say, okay, we listened to you. Here's what we did with your input, and here's what it kind of looks like. Of these percentage of streets, this is what qualifies for this, and this is what qualifies for that. So we can come back with some real life examples beyond just the South R Street.
Well, I think it also depends on if it's like a feeder road or whatever whatever the titles are. It really makes a difference of how much impact that has. And
Once again, Ryan, this is such an excellent example of the benefit to having these studies done.
Yes,
I mean, that's
Yeah.
why you do them.
To let the data drive the decision, and when we have the data, we can allow, case in point, the dollars that the precious resources that we're getting from the public, we now can make sure that we're investing it more wisely in that important infrastructure.
I also think it's a good customer service, but I'm sure you get complaints about streets. I think both.
well, I think that
get
it's
them.
a comprehensive
Yeah,
plan.
and
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can
Yeah,
say, well,
that
your
there.
street is bad, it's slated to be repaired in such and such. And hopefully that is somewhat comforting and calming, you know.
and you know, and I was surprised that streets ended up at number one. I'm glad we know, I mean, we know what it is, but I didn't realize, I wasn't sure what, how other people felt.
Well, again, with, like you said, Heather, the ranking of the
Mhm.
streets of a, we joke in our neighborhood that our street is a on-ramp to 92. Because it gets a lot more than local neighborhood traffic, so.
Hey, I apologize if I'm talking over somebody, but one thing I really wanted to make sure we emphasized here is the process that this goes through doesn't end up being a city council determines what street
Yeah.
gets repaved, what street gets whatever. The process is with the engineers and the staff, and we're just once again providing the roadmap and letting, in this case, the staff and the engineers do the roads.
Yeah, I'm not implying that, Greg, that I would impact your try to influence that.
So what, it was really great that, I mean, the timing worked out really well. We completed our study, thanks to Dave and Snyder for working on, again, that was a year ahead of schedule. As AP was working on this presentation, we got the data from the MPO. And so this comparison here, and what's nice is that, you know, we're aligned with our peers in the metro. And in many cases, you know, in some of those cases, we're better than them, which is good. And then it's, you know, as we learned from the pavement indexing study, if we're not going to fund to that level, well, those numbers are going to drastically change over the years, and we'll lose that competitiveness with our peers. And as we're trying to attract and retain residents and businesses, and they're going and driving through neighborhoods in our town, and it's rough and bumpy, and that plays into economic development, which was, again, based on the surveys part of the comp plan, was the #1 priority, or what's the most important for our residents. So.
AP, my takeaway from both of your parts of your presentation are we're in support of both sides. That I think you can help us adopt these specifications and give us a roadmap for which ones make sense for total reconstruction of roads and which ones make sense for an overlay. I think we're in good hands. I think we'll take good care of us.
And council's not gonna try to dictate.
Yes.
That's absolutely not what I was implying at all.
And we'll come back, we'll do the homework, we'll come back and present it probably at another study session of, okay, what does this exercise look like? What are the roads that would be good candidates for the grind and overlay
What's
versus
the
the reconstruction?
financial implication of that?
Yeah.
Because you might come back saying, here's 4 roads that are gonna be a
Yeah.
big hit 5 years down the road, and we gotta start budgeting for it.
Sure.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
Thank you.
All right, Andy, I think you're the one that's gonna come update us regarding the status of the fiscal 22 budget process.
Put up here. All right. Mayor, members of the council, I'm here to give you a presentation on the FY 2022 budget. The budget that we're working on right now starts on July 1st, 2021, goes to June 30th of 2022. The agenda for my presentation is I'm going to give you a current status of where we are with the current fiscal year, FY21. And then some of the requests that we got from the civic organization for the FY22 budget year, our goals for that we're working on in FY 2022, and then further information discussion that is needed as we progress in the development of the budget. So currently, I wanted to give you a status of the FY21 general fund revenue review. I feel this is important given the pandemic and everything. If we draw a line about where we're supposed to be, since we are halfway through the fiscal year at 50%, it gives us a target line of what we need to meet for our revenue types. You'll see that most of them are at 50%, including especially noted property tax at the beginning there. You'll see a few of them are slightly below the red line. That's mainly because we haven't done certain monthly transfers at present. But there are 5 of them that are significantly below those, and I want to draw your attention to and maybe get a little bit of an explanation to that. Most of them are driven by the pandemic. Property tax backfill is something that we use for one-time expenses. We're using for architectural services this year. As you know, that they did come under budget. The gas utility franchise tax is mainly the gas tax, franchise tax with Mid-America. We're just getting into winter, and of course that's weather dependent. So that's why that's behind. Use of money and property is mainly bank interest, and that's driven by the pandemic. So we knew that was going to be low, but that's not a significant part of our budget. One that I do have some concern over was the charges for services. This mainly is driven by the EMS revenue that we receive for ambulance calls. We did have a significant dip in March and April when the pandemic first hit. So that we're seeing the effects of that during this current fiscal year. But calls have been gone back up to normal. So we'll see a little bit more of an increase in that and hopefully get back close to where we are normal. And then private grants, we knew that was going to be hit by pandemic. The budget process. This is a simplified model of the budget process. The council has their strategic planning, sets the goals. We develop the budget, we implement the budget, and then we measure our progress with the budget. And this is the budget calendar that I presented earlier to the council. I know it's small because there's 2 pages here, but we're right here. We are here, right about at the middle of the budget process. A lot of work gone on before that. Department heads worked with me on the environmental scan, developing the capital improvement plan, and then developing their budgets. And it's been a fairly smooth process. Can't say can't say enough about the department heads working with them. They've been patient with me. We did have a new online tool with Civic, and they've been working with me and it's been a very good tool and very smooth process up to this point. So here are the civic organization requests that we received. We're assuming that the hotel motel tax revenue will go back up to normal. We did receive 2 new requests this year, one from the Hill House for 7,500. We did get also a rather significant request from HERDA, which is the Heartland of Iowa Regional Transportation. They provide the transportation needs for underprivileged and elderly. And so you'll notice there the 150,000 is what we normally receive in a normal fiscal year. 25,000 goes to Park and Rec. We give 2/7 of that both to Bravo and to CVB. So you'll notice you'll see what the reserve that's needed to make up if we were to fully fund the request. So that's more discussion that we'll need to have with the council later on. Back to the budget process. Beginning budget process is where the council has their strategic planning and they're set the goals. You'll notice this is the cover page for the council strategic planning that was adopted by the council earlier in the year. The main reason I wanted to bring this up was we have some themes that in the FY22 budget that we tied to these council priorities. One is we're hiring a new rental inspector. As you know, the census is showing that we've projected that we're over 15,000. So council priority was to update city rental inspection codes. So we'll be following that process to get that rental inspector in and start the rental inspection process. We're hiring 3 new paramedics and firefighters. Firefighter paramedics, 3 new people. This is part of the staffing study that was done back in 2018, and this is the last step as far as those recommendations. And so that council priority of adequate staffing. We're continuing with the facility evaluation and development. That's not only the continuation of the construction of the water recovery, resource recovery facility, but also the city hall, library, and the public safety building as we move forward with those studies. And then we're addressing the street and storm sewer needs. AP just gave you the update on the street master plan, where we also did the stormwater utility review, and we'll be bringing forth some discussion on stormwater utility fees to meet the needs that we see that coming down the line for in the stormwater master plan. So some impact items that we have yet to either need more information or to continue on the process, or that we're watching as far as impacting the development of the FY22 budget. Of course, we need to get the valuations from the county. They come around January 1st, on or around January 1st. So we'll know how much of an increase in the valuation that the city had. GEMT funding, we presented this, or Chief G presented this to you before. This is the federal program to make up for the Medicaid transports that we have. We're looking at about 200,000. This is going to be first year, so we don't have the experience to build on our projections. So we're projecting a certain amount of revenue, but we still have to go through the process of having that program in place. We need information from IMU on their franchise fees and pilot payments moving forward and what they project for that. We're using a 10% health insurance increase. If we get any other information that lends that it's going to be higher or lower, we'll have to build that in. And then we had heard earlier from IMU that they had anticipated a 3% increase in their utility rates. Whether that's going to happen or not, we still have to get some information from them on that. And then further discussion that's going to be needed with the council. Short term for the FY22 budget, the civic organizations request, as I mentioned, and then the stormwater utility funding, the fees to meet the needs of the stormwater master plan. And then long-term, we have this trail improvement funding. We have some significant portions of the trail master plan coming up with the Jerry Kelly Trail and different things like that. So we'll have to discuss on how we're going to be funding that going into the future. And then also our road use, meeting our street needs. As AP presented again, we're anticipating a significant increase because the population is going up in 2020. And the cities receive road use tax based on a per capita amount. That amount increases a little bit each year, but of course our population won't change for another 10 years. So that revenue that we receive remains rather steady. So if we're going to be using that, that remains rather steady. So we're going to have to make some decisions on how we're going to pay for future street improvements.
When will we get the first increase of our population increase from the census?
We're anticipating sometime in spring.
Spring, okay. Do you have any idea how much of an increase that would be?
I'm anticipating around 150,000. Okay. So with about a 1,500 to 2,000 population increase.
And
trying to be conservative.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, he put on long-term because those are going to be, some big ticket discussions we'll have to have, as part of the next retreat, and an update of the strategic plan, because, we are a growing community. We've got in many of the departments, like we had with police and fire, many of the departments, are operating with skeleton crews, and the council and the staff have worked over the last couple of years to make sure that our staffing meets the needs of the community. Police and fire, you talked about the adding of the fire staff, but the public works department of streets, that's going to be a big one. We have only six members right now. That's a lot of miles and a lot of infrastructure to be maintained by just 6 people.
And remind me, in the short term, the civic org, did we not notify them going in that this year may be a correction year because we did go ahead and continue on fully funding our civic last year when we were taking a hit, we went ahead and continued on. Did we not notify them and let them know that, hey, 2022 may be a little different?
Correct, we did.
Okay.
We did. So as we go through the budget process, we'll have to see, like I said, we're assuming that it's going to be back to normal. We'll have to wait and see how the vaccines work out and everything. So.
Tagging on to Councilman Parker's question there, the hotel motel tax can also go to park and recreation. Is that correct, Andy? If we didn't, as an example, didn't fund the civic organizations, could that close to $150,000 go into park and rec?
Yeah, we have a portion of it. 2/7 of it goes to Bravo and CBB, but the remaining portions up to the council are going to be determined. I mean, we have 25,000 that we set aside for park and rec. If the council decides they would like to increase that, or
well, I just planting a seed, kind of what I was thinking with the trail plan and things like that, and with what Councilman Parker said about we went ahead and honored our obligations last year. It might give us an opportunity to do a little bit more within the city with the funding, as opposed to letting that go out to civic organizations. If we could indeed maybe change gears this year, just throwing it out for food for thought.
questions?
I have a question. It's about an item, a budget item, but it's not about the budget. I have a question about when we start doing the rental inspections. My question is, we actually haven't done that because we haven't had that threshold for the population. So there will be no grandfathering in. In other words, they will, that's okay. That's answered that. That's no one knows.
And that
may be a big curve.
Yeah.
At first.
And that's where, we talk about the 4 C's, the community engagement, having to work with our community and kind of engaging them in this process. And this is one of those things where it's a mandate. The state says, once you get that, you have how many days, but how many months? 6 months to implement. So it's something that I mean, when you look at all the census estimates, certainly we've had the growth. We know we've had the growth. We're fairly certain we'll hit past the 15,000 and hopefully be into the 16s. But this is something that we don't have a choice on. We must do this.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. I just, every year it gets a little bit better. Thank you. I really appreciate the work that you guys do. And not only starting with you at the top, but then also the department heads and their willingness to make change. And I know when I first came on council, it was a lot different way of doing budgeting, and there was not input, and Pam was here too, and there was not input from the department heads, and for them to then shift and have to relearn how to, I'm very impressed in the quality that we have good department heads too that are willing, and I just thank you. It makes things so much better, and so I really appreciate that we're sitting here talking about what's going to happen in 3-5 years, not only next year. So I appreciate that.
Agreed, well said.
Thank you.
All right.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so much. Anything else we need to discuss this evening in our council study? workshop
That's
session?
all that we had planned.
All right. Well, then I think we can call it an evening, right?
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Happy
Yeah.
holidays.